Now at Verizon, we have some big news for your peace of mind. For all our customers, existing and new, we're locking in low prices for 3 years guaranteed on My Plan and My Home. That's future you peace of mind. And everyone can save on a brand new phone on My Plan when you trade in any phone from one of our top brands. That's new phone peace of mind. Because at Verizon, whether you're already a customer or you're just joining us, we got you. Visit Verizon today. Price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
Hi guys, it's Hannah from Giggly Squad. With summer around the corner, I wanted to tell you guys how I'm staying comfy and stylish. Lululemon is my secret weapon. There are plenty of copycats out there, but nothing compares to the Lululemon fabrics and fit. I've literally had my pair of Lululemon leggings since college. And I'm out of college. I know I don't look it, but I am. The quality is next level. I especially love the Lululemon Align collection. It's made with this weightless, buttery soft Nulu fabric that feels like next to nothing. It's so soft. Whether you're in Align pants, shorts, a bra, tank, skirt, a dress, you get nonstop flexibility in every direction so you can stretch the summer limits. Align even wicks sweat. And as a sweaty girl, I love this. You know it's going to be my best friend when I play tennis this summer. Shop the Align collection online at lululemon.com or your nearest Lululemon store.
Welcome to mini episode number 449 of Real Life Ghost Stories. And I have 2 spooky stories for you today, and the last story comes from February the 17th, 2025. And story number 1 comes from Erin. I've been into all things spooky for as long as I can remember. It's hard to say if this is a result of my older brothers thinking it was completely appropriate to put on horror movies while they babysat me, when I was as young as 3 years old, such as Cujo, Hellraiser and It, to name a few. Or perhaps it was the fact that my parents listened to the radio for white noise when they slept, when it switched over to coast at some point every night. Times when I'd go into their room as a small child seeking comfort after a nightmare, I was then confronted with stories of UFO sightings, cryptids and ghost stories. I'll never forget curling up with my tiny fingers in my ears to block out the stories, figuring it was better to be terrified with them than terrified alone in my room. Needless to say, these likely played a part in developing my spooky interests as an adult. I have a few fun stories to share today. Some I experienced and some my husband did. First, my childhood home always had really creepy run up the stairs after turning off the lights vibes. And all 9 of us kids, I come from a big family, knew it. We were only the second owners of the home, and it was just a few years old when we moved in. But as they say, you never know if it's the house and those who lived in it, or the land the house is built on that determine its vibes. In any case, one of the upstairs bedrooms was particularly spooky. Many of my siblings lived in that room at one point or another, and we all had the same impression. When I lived in that room, I would frequently wake up with that overwhelming sense that someone was in the room with me. I would lay there as silently and still as possible, listening to the soft but distinct sound of footsteps on the carpet approaching my bed. It's such a subtle sound, but if you have carpet, you know what I mean. When I felt brave enough, which wasn't very often, I'd whip up to flip on my bedside lamp, only to find that I was, of course, alone. One weekend, our cousin was visiting from across the state. She, my sister and I were in that bedroom chatting away, when out of nowhere my giant stereo CD cassette player switched on, full blast, highest volume possible, to this weird radio station that wasn't quite static, but kind of distorted sounds. Firstly, this was one of those old stereos that was completely analog, so you'd have to physically switch it on. Secondly, no one in our house would have ever listened to anything with the volume turned all the way up. I will never forget how we screamed and ran down the stairs to get my parents to turn the thing off, all of us yelling, explaining what happened over each other. God knows how we kept staying in that room. After finally confessing to my older siblings how much the bedroom freaked me out, none of them had talked to me about it yet, They responded that one of my oldest brothers in his late teens refused to stay in there because it scared him so badly. Oddly, the only other concrete experience I had in that house actually happened in our downstairs living room though. I was having a sleepover with one of my friends when we were about 10 years old. In the middle of the night, I suddenly woke up and sensed that we were not alone. I peered towards the kitchen and saw a woman standing there, who, as many often say, I instinctively knew wasn't actually there, meaning non-corporeal. I could tell my friend was awake based on her breathing, which was a bit too fast and shallow. I knew the woman wasn't really there because I whispered to my friend for confirmation. "Do you see her?" She quietly responded, "Yes." I remember whispering something to her about how we should pretend like we're asleep. I remember laying there snuggling together, squeezing our eyes tightly closed with the blanket pulled over our eyes, when we heard the sound of the couch right next to us slowly creaking, as if the woman was sitting down. Okay, what I said next was so weird and creepy, but I whispered, "She's settling in kind of shock to the situation that we found ourselves in. Then, as with so many stories like this, we somehow miraculously fell asleep. In the morning, I asked her if that really happened, and she confirmed that it had. I remember asking my mom if perhaps one of my older siblings might have come home late that night, trying to debunk what we had seen, even though I already knew that it wasn't anyone in our family. The only other explanation was a random woman got into our house and watched two little girls sleep, which is arguably far more terrifying than seeing a ghost. My next story comes from a trip I took with my parents to San Francisco to celebrate my recent high school graduation. We stayed in a boutique hotel called the Queen Anne, which I now know is known to be haunted. We didn't know this back then, we just liked to stay in boutique hotels, and the internet in 2008 wasn't what it is now. Our first night in the hotel, I woke up a few hours after falling asleep feeling just inexplicably terrified, with the overwhelming sense that I was not alone in the room. I was so freaked out that I actually turned the TV on. The volume was all the way down, to give the room a little bit of light to help me fall back asleep. I honestly forgot this happened until at breakfast my mom turned to my dad and said, "That was so weird that we were so awake at 1:18 in the morning." I gasped because when I woke up feeling so terrified, I turned to look at the clock and it was exactly 1:18. For additional context, we were sleeping in separate bedrooms, and I didn't hear them at all. Later that day, I was on my laptop in the lobby using their Wi-Fi, because again, it was 2008 and technology wasn't what it is today, when a ghost tour came in. I laughed to myself saying, "Of course this place is haunted, that makes a lot of sense," when I overheard the tour guide say, "We're going to head up to the 4th floor at the end of the hallway, where we always experience a lot of activity." The way my jaw hit the floor. Our room was, yes, on the 4th floor at the end of the hallway. Now that we're in the modern era, I've done a bit of research on the hotel, and here's what I found from thehauntedghosttour.com. Built in 1890, the Queen Anne Hotel was originally one of the most exclusive girls' boarding schools in the San Francisco area. The headmistress of the school was Miss Mary Lake. Since her death, the Queen Anne Hotel has had many owners, from brothel owners to church caretakers to mysterious secret societies. The ghost residing in the Queen Anne Hotel is different from the spirits that plague other San Francisco hotels. The ghost is reportedly incredibly friendly and often takes care of the hotel's guests as best it can, unpacking suitcases, tucking guests in, and singing to them while they fall asleep. This is a ghost that wants everyone to feel at home here. Could it be that the hotel is haunted by Mary Lake, the former headmistress of the school, even though she is buried more than 3,000 miles away? Most people seem to think so. The majority of the reported hauntings have occurred in room 410, which was once Mary's office. Once a resident of room 410 even woke up to find themselves on the floor with their bedding neatly tucked around them. Now, I'm not sure whether we stayed in room 410, but I am confident Miss Mary checked in on us that night. And while she might be one of the kindest spirits in the world, that woman scared the crap out of me. My next experience happened in my early 20s when I moved in with a boyfriend. He lived in a townhouse that had very normal vibes, except for one of the 2 upstairs bedrooms. This particular bedroom was right at the top of the stairs, so if you walk straight up the stairs, it's the door straight in front of you. From the top of the stairs, you take a sharp 180 turn to the left down a hallway to get to our room. The bedroom at the top of the stairs felt fine during the day and was actually our office, but at night it immediately felt creepy. Perhaps this came down to bad feng shui, having a dark abyss in front of you at the top of the stairs, but I always tried to keep that door closed at night. Otherwise, I would race around that corner to get down the hallway to our bedroom and away from that room as fast as I could. One evening, my boyfriend and I were getting ready to go out. He was getting ready in our master bedroom and I was getting ready in this office bathroom. I was going to the bathroom when I heard my boyfriend kind of whisper from in the office, "Babe, shh." I responded immediately, "What? I'm peeing." And the second those words left my lips, I just knew that it wasn't my boyfriend who had said it. Don't ask me how I knew, but I instinctively knew. I have never finished peeing so fast in my life. I ran out of the office and into our master bathroom to find a very bewildered boyfriend looking at me, as I was clearly frantic for some reason. I asked if he was just in the office, and of course he wasn't. Nothing else happened in that house, but man, I knew there was something going on. The next story is my husband's, and it's so good. When he was a senior in high school, he accompanied his dad on a trip to visit clients around the northeast of the United States. One of his clients had a home in a rural part of Maine and offered to let my husband and his dad let themselves in and stay there, since they'd be in the area. So it was just my husband and his dad staying at the house. There was a renovated wing of the house that had one bedroom, and there was the old part of the house that had several bedrooms upstairs. My father-in-law chose the new wing of the house, which left my husband to find a bedroom in the historic part of the home. He described the historic wing as exactly what you would imagine, with sort of Victorian style, gaudy furniture, frilly duvets, doilies, lacy curtains, etc. He chose the least creepy of all of the creepy bedrooms and set about falling asleep. Before going to bed, my husband closed and locked his bedroom door and then laid down to sleep. Not long after laying down, suddenly and with an almighty bang, his bedroom door flung itself open. It made such a crash that his dad called from the downstairs wing, "How's everything going up there?" To which my husband facetiously replied, "Oh, okay, my locked door just opened itself, but otherwise all good." His dad just laughed and said, "Do you want to sleep with me down here?" Which my husband bravely declined. He figured, well, if we're not alone in this house, point taken. They don't like that door closed. So he left the door open and fell asleep by turning on repeat the most relaxing music he could find on his iPod. This was the mid-2000s, so peak iTunes era, when everyone would ask for your top iTunes song. He said it was pretty funny having to explain to his mates why his number one played song was Sunrise by Norah Jones. Okay, this last one is also one of my husband's stories. While he was away at University of Edinburgh, he and his buddies got a bit drunk and went on one of those ghost tours in Greyfriars Kirkyard Cemetery. Who knows if this is actual lore or just the tour guide messing with them, but they were told that they needed to enter and exit a certain part of the graveyard by going either between or around a set of trees, depending on whether they were going in or coming out, lest they risk something attaching to them or some other bad luck befalling them. They thought it would be hilarious to do the exact opposite of whatever the tour guide told them to do. That night, my husband experienced sleep paralysis for the first and only time in his life. While we know sleep paralysis is entirely physiologically explainable, I do find it interesting how often you hear about people experience sleep paralysis after something else spooky happens. I'm a big fan of the movie The Nightmare, all about sleep paralysis, and I can't remember if there is some explanation to this phenomenon, especially in cases where people don't even know what sleep paralysis is and have never heard of it. In any case, that may just be a coincidence. What happened the following night, however, can't be so easily explained. The next night, he was laying in his bed, on his back, getting ready to fall asleep. He suddenly felt and heard someone exhale loudly onto his face, like an open-mouthed, hard and fast exhale. His immediate reaction was to swing his fist and say, "Fuck off!" at what he presumed was one of his roommates messing with him. As he swung, a dark shadow appeared to swoop to the side of his bed. He describes it as kind of looking like a dementor, and he also acknowledges how cliched that sounds. He peered over the side of his bed, still calling out to whichever of his roommates was behind the prank, still very much convinced at this point that it was one of his friends. His laptop was on the floor next to his bed, so he opened up his laptop to illuminate the floor and under his bed, only to discover that no one was there. My husband figured something in the graveyard thought these cocky young men deserved a bit of a lesson after what they pulled at the cemetery. Thankfully, nothing like that has happened to him since. Here's to all the kids who were inappropriately shown horror films at a young age. Mine, as I've told you guys before, was Silence of the Lambs, which terrified me. And then there was also that UFO story that was on Ricky Lake. You remember that daytime TV show? So those two things traumatized me in a way that has probably caused me untold issues going forward. So Erin, I feel you, and it's made us stronger people, better people, spooky people. I find it really fascinating that within families, there's 9 of you in it, and you were staying in this room and you were feeling like it was really freaky and bad vibes, and you could hear footsteps on the carpet and the CD player, kind of cassette player, switched on full blast. That is all freaky stuff. And then to find out that one of your oldest brothers was like, oh yeah, no, I wouldn't stay in that room because it scared me so badly. But nobody says anything, because you all just got to survive. There isn't space for 9 kids to be picking and choosing where they sleep. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, get in there and sleep, and just nobody say anything about the fact that it's haunted. Okay, we're trying and squeeze as much out of this as possible. But then for you to physically see a woman in the kitchen, when you're having this sleepover, and to kind of feel her come and sit on the sofa next to you and watch you guys sleeping, and to have that validated by your friend going, yep, I can see her too. And I agree with you. It is far more terrifying to imagine that a real woman broke into the house and just sat and watched 2 wee girls sleeping and then left again before anybody woke up. Like, that's terrifying. I mean, a ghost is still terrifying, right? But I would imagine that this woman is probably responsible for the footsteps on the carpet, coming in, checking in on you, that kind of thing, turning the CD player on. It's probably all the same entity. Maybe just looking for attention, maybe just looking out for the kids in the house in their own spooky way, And in regards to your Queen Anne Hotel story, what happened at 1:18 a.m? It's a very specific time for spooky goings on, And we've spoken about this before numerous times in the podcast. Hotels are, I just think they're weird places. They're liminal spaces. I think they're very strange, especially when you got hotels that have had a history, have had a life. Being a girls' school, being looked after by brothel owners. Like, that's a lot of shit to be going on in one place. And maybe it is this lovely ghost who is coming in, this Miss Mary Lake, who is coming in and checking on people and whatever. But again, I would say this until I'm blue in the face. We need to reassess. Spirit world, if you're listening, you need to reassess how you go about these things without traumatizing people. And if I'm just going to say it, if I'm going for a wee, sorry, I've moved stories, we're moving quickly here, we're bouncing around, but if I'm going for a wee and a ghost is telling me to shush because I'm weeing, I'd be like, excuse me? Don't you dare try and control and try and police my bodily functions. Absolutely not in this world, not in the next world. And if you're going to try and police my bodily functions, at least have the bravery and the guts to do it in your own voice. Don't you be imitating my boyfriend, I say I would say all these things. I wouldn't say anything. I'd just sprint out of the room and be panicked. That's what would happen. And I love that your husband, when he was a teenager and he's staying in this historic wing and the locked door flies open, fair play to him for being like, no, I'm actually not going to leave. I'm going to recognize, I'm going to respect, I'm not going to close the door again, but I'm going to try and brave this one out. And that kind of bravery / stupidity, I think, is a very teenage boy thing, for sure, or young men in their 20s, when they're like, I am invincible and I can do anything. Hence the situation with Greyfriars Kirkyard, which, as far as I remember, is haunted by the Mackenzie poltergeist, a famously really violent and vicious poltergeist. So listen, I think your husband was pretty lucky to get away with some sleep paralysis potentially and a shadow over his face at night, because the shit I remember from Greyfriars Kirkyard is not good,
Hey, this is Naomi Ekperigan, co-host of the podcast Couples Therapy. I wanted to talk to you about Boost Mobile, the newest 5G network in the country. Boost Mobile's new network delivers customers the speed and service they'd expect from the big three, plus groundbreaking benefits you'd only get from a true challenger in the industry, like letting people try the network risk-free for 30 days, and offering a $25 per month unlimited plan that's guaranteed to never go up in price. So visit your nearest Boost Mobile store or find them online at boostmobile.com.
You know that feeling when you clear your inbox, or end a meeting early, or finally check your pipeline and everything's actually under control? That's what Monday CRM feels like. It's fast, easy to use, and with built-in AI, it helps you move faster without the busy work. Try it free at monday.com/CRM, because sales should feel this good.
Summer's here, and Nordstrom has everything you need for your best dressed season ever. From beach days and weddings to weekend getaways and more, discover stylish options under $100 from tons of your favorite brands like Mango, Skims, Princess Polly, and Madewell. It's easy too, with free shipping and free returns, in-store order pickup, and more. Shop today, in stores, online at Nordstrom.com, or download the Nordstrom app.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
And story number 2 today comes from Elspeth. My family and I live in a very old house in a small Essex village, and we've been there since 2010. Over the years, the people that have come into our house have often made comments about how they believe it is haunted, possibly due to its old timbers and squeaky floorboards. But I want to share 3 particular experiences that my family have had and told me over the years living here. Not long after moving here, my parents went into my brother's room, then 3 years old, after he woke up, and he proceeded to ask them out of the blue, "Why did the old man die?" Little did my brother know, the man of the couple who lived in our house prior had actually passed away here. Was this a weird coincidence from a random dream he had, or something more? The second thing that happened was probably around a couple of years later. For context of this story, there are 3 steps up to my parents' bedroom that make a very specific creak only when someone walks up them. If my parents hear this at night, they know it is either my brother or I coming to ask for something, etc. This night we had all gone up to bed, but my parents were still laid awake. Then they heard the very specific creak of the stairs and sat up expecting me or my brother to immediately walk in, to the point where my mum even called my brother's name to see if he was there. He was not. There was no one there. The morning after, my parents asked my brother and I if we'd walked up their steps last night, and of course we had not. I should also add that neither of us sleepwalk. The third story happened more recently, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. My brother and I had gone to bed. My dad was still at work, so it was just my mum downstairs watching TV with the dogs. She walked through from the lounge to the kitchen, which in passing you get a direct view of the stairs, and she saw a figure who she undeniably thought was my brother coming downstairs due to the height and shape. She was even so convinced that she went into the kitchen and checked behind the cupboard to see if he was hiding as a joke. Of course, again, she asked my brother and I if we'd come downstairs during the night, and unsurprisingly, we had not. Did my mum see a ghost? I doubt she was hallucinating because we do not get mould in the house, and she was definitely not on drugs. Oh, look, I'm just going to say it. Do you know, it's one of those arguments that really annoys me when people are like, were you drinking or on drugs when you saw this? There are not very many drugs that would cause hallucinations to that degree. Nor, I mean, you'd have to be drinking a huge amount of, I'd imagine, like poachine or something to have hallucinations to that degree. I'd imagine you could misconstrue things under the influence of alcohol and drugs. But, you know, in my experience of alcohol and drugs, I've never seen ghosts or goblins or small boys wandering around the house. You know, just putting that out there. I can't imagine though what it would be like to move into a house and then the 3-year-old is like, "Why did the old man die?" I'd be like, "You shut your mouth and don't ever mention the old man again, okay? If you want to not be drop kicked down those stairs, you keep all your weird death talk to yourself, okay? And I wonder, right, based on the fact that your mom was kind of downstairs watching TV or whatever, she sees this wee boy going into the kitchen, she goes and checks, you know, and that's obviously terrifying. But is this the same entity that was creaking on the stairs at nighttime? You know, is that what was wandering around the house at nighttime? Sometimes it just doesn't bear thinking about, you know, as somebody who is currently living in a weird situation in my house. I don't want to think about things wandering around the house at nighttime, okay? But judging by these stories that we've been getting lately, I feel like we're all just floundering around and, you know, these entities are just wandering around us all the time. And that it's not a very nice thought. And as somebody who sleepwalks, I don't want to be sleepwalking and bump into an entity in the middle of the night. I don't want to do that. So as a general call out to the spirit world, like I said previously, find better ways to introduce yourself to people without being as scary, but also stop wandering around the house in the middle of the night. It is deeply unsettling at best. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Thank you to Erin and Elspeth for sending in your stories. Remember, the last story came from February the 17th, 2025. And if you would like to send in your story, you can do so by emailing it to reallifeghoststoriespodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out the website, reallifeghoststoriespodcast.com. And if you are desperate for some extra content, you can subscribe to the Patreon. That is patreon.com/reallifeghoststories, where for $5 a month or for $2 a month, you can get access to heaps of extra content, as well as every single main and mini episode completely ad-free. And on that note, I shall see you next time.
Now at Verizon, we have some big news for your peace of mind. For all our customers, existing and new, we're locking in low prices for 3 years guaranteed on My Plan and My Home. That's future you peace of mind. And everyone can save on a brand new phone on My Plan when you trade in any phone from one of our top brands. That's new phone peace of mind. Because at Verizon, whether you're already a customer or you're just joining us, we got you. Visit Verizon today. Price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.